Hi, this is Michael Becker, and in this Tinderbox lesson, I'm going to get into detail about how to develop various types of export templates and leveraging HTML styles and outline depth to be able to effectively manage your output, aka your contributions out of Tinderbox. Specifically, I'm going to give you a number of different strategies as we go about doing that. So let's jump in and let me show you. Okay, before I get into too much detail, what I want to be able to just reiterate is the four C's of knowledge making and exchange. And that process is, in some respects, very simple, but Tinderbox really helps you bring all of that to life. That process consists of you collect your notes, you then start curating those notes, and then you'll have a collection and curation process as you go through that exercise. As your knowledge and insights start becoming more and more refined, you'll start creating more and more new ideas. Those new ideas will feed back into more collection and more refinement and more curation. And then when your ideas are ready to be put out there into the world, when you're ready to contribute them, aka publish, you'll then you go into the contribution phase of the four C's of knowledge making and exchange. And at that stage, you're going to want to be styling and managing your publication of your articles out of Tinderbox. Now, there are a lot of ways to go about doing this in Tinderbox and creating notes. Now, what I've seen a lot of issues and complaints from others as they've used the Tinderbox tool is they find it really hard to get things out of Tinderbox. And for the most part, what I've seen most people do is very short form content, meaning they'll maybe have an article, they'll go ahead, type in an article, they'll have some content, they can copy that, and they would go put that out there into the in the market. And so they're looking at really just small short form content that they're copying and pasting out of a particular note or field. Now, what I want to be able to show you here is that you can do much more. And let me just demonstrate really quickly on one of my own files. So I've mentioned this at a number of times during our discussions and such. But I am actually actively kind of working on my doctoral dissertation, and I've got tons of notes, and some are more organized and refined than others. But if you look here, if I go ahead and take a look at this note, and I can put this in preview, you'll see that I actually have a really robust note with a lot of images and text, and it's well refined, and there's bulleted lists, and there's tables. There's just a whole bunch going on here from a formatting and appendices and such in this document. And if I were to copy and paste this document and put it into Microsoft Word, you're going to see it will come out to about 110 pages. So you can actually perform and do long form content in Tinderbox. And this is really what I want to share with you today. Now, let's go take a look at this file. Now, as you'll see here, we can go ahead and you can drop in your notes and add notes in as at will, as we've talked about in other lessons. You can add your attributes to these notes, which I haven't done in this particular test file. And then when you're ready to go look at those notes, if you've got your HTML templates installed, so you can just go to built-in template, click HTML, and then that gets your HTML template engine up and running. And then if you go to File and Show Help Text Paint Selector, you can get this selector window appearing here. I'll turn it on and off just so you can see it. So I can go hide it so you see it disappears. And if I go here, oops. I go here and I show text line selector, there now it reappears. And so now what I can do, if I want to then go preview this content, if I want to just look at one particular piece, for example, subtopic, I can preview it. There it is. The way Tinderbox works, because if you look at this HTML template, let me go ahead and turn on my inspector. You'll see I have the HTML and template installed for these notes. So what that's telling Tinderbox is process the HTML template for installing these notes. So if I can then go ahead and look here, you'll see that this is what this file looks like when it's being exported out with the HTML template. And you'll see everything's the same subheadings and such. So we can go and these are it's kind of hard to see, but like this is a heading 1, and then this would be a heading 2, and the delineation's a little bit hard to visualize right now when you're looking at the screen here. And if we look at the HTML template, essentially this is what it is. It's saying open up your HTML file, take the title of this first note, that would be solution overview title here, process it as text. Then for every child of the solution overview, go through and process those children using this template. So then if we look here, that's saying process those children by putting h2 text and putting the title and then the text of the file, and then recursively keep processing those children until you've gone through all of the children, and then that would be the rendered file. So if we go ahead and look again, you can see we've got our HTML preview, and then you can see here, you'll see I've got my H1 title and my H2, and then everything's received. And now I could easily just copy this content, place it into any kind of HTML rendering tool like my blog, and to be able to publish that article, or I can simply copy this and say paste it into a Microsoft Word document. So that's how you would be able to start rendering content. But the problem is this isn't, I mean, it's fine, but it's not very well formatted. And if you use more granular control of your with your styling, there's a lot that you can do. So let me go ahead and share that with you. So if I go on this one, and let's say I'm going to make this one styling 2. You'll see here, our styling one, sorry, CSS style page template. You'll see here I've got this really nice template now. It's a little bit better styled. I can start putting in different color schemes. So if I go here and I look at this styling, what you're seeing is I basically have a copy of the HTML template we just walked through. But the difference here is I'm putting in style sheet content. So I'm telling Tinderbox to say, and this is just basic HTML CSS styling, which you can learn from wc3cschools.org. And you can see here I'm saying make your header 1s this color, make your header 2s blue, make your header 3s this color, slightly less black color, and have them be underlined. So when we go, and then when you go process the children, I'm saying, from an outline depth, how do I tell Tinderbox which item I want to be H2, H3, or H1, H2, H3. Well, what I'm doing, I'm saying if your outline depth is 2, then be an H1. If your outline depth is 3, then be H1. If your outline depth is 4, be H2, and 5 be H3. So if we look at this file, then right now we can see here's outline depth 1, so I want that to be here's outline depth 1, so I want that to be H1. Here's 1, 2, and 3, 4, and etc. So if I look at this now, I can go here, and I can see the different styling, and you'll go ahead and see that. So I've got H1, I've got H1, H2, H3, and you'll see my subtopics are being appropriately handled. Now the problem with doing it this way is, watch what happens if I go ahead and tab in and I change the outline depth of this solution. You'll see everything changes, and now and the reason for that is because if you look at this HTML template, and we'll go ahead and put that back now, what we're doing with this template is we are hard coding the outline depth, and so that's problematic. So this is looking for a very specific set structure. So where I want, this is outline depth 1, 2, 3, 4. So now what do we do, and how do we fix that? Well, the way to fix that is to apply my second template. And so if you look here, same idea. We're going to put our CSS styling here. And then I also added a couple extra styles, like I added an H4 template so I can get one more layer of depth. You'll see that I added a P tag so I can manage my font structure a little bit more. I also added a what's called the media screen tag, which allows me, when it's on screen, it will show it at 16-point font, but when it's being printed out, it will show it at 11-point font. So that gives you another kind of example of what you can do with styling. But here's the most important thing that I've done when managing this file, and again, nod to an acknowledgement to Mark Anderson for our iterative and collaborative effort to develop this. Now we see a very significant different structure here. You'll see that what I'm doing is I'm not having this outline mode like this, but rather I'm going to be able to have it build the outline levels in context so it knows where it is. And so let me go ahead and show you what happens first, and then we'll explain it. So I'm going to go up to article number 2, and you'll see, and I showed you earlier when I tabbed this one in, you'll see that the structure changes significantly, right? Because this one is using the fixed article depth. Now, if we go ahead and apply CSS number 2, Now watch what happens. If I look at the article, tab it in, refresh, same thing. If I tab it in, refresh, same thing. Nothing's changed. It's exactly the way we wanted it to be, and it will be that way regardless of the depth of the piece in the article. So how are we doing that? So the way we're going about doing that here is we're using a relative methodology for getting the relative structure of the article our note in the Tinderbox file. So you'll see here what we're doing is we're performing an action code in the export. So we're saying first let's create an action, and what we want to do is set a variable for this particular note called heading depth. So this is an attribute to which we've created for this note. And we're saying what we want is the heading depth for this note to be the outline depth of this note minus a global variable heading depth. And so that and the global variable heading depth is a TBX config note. And so what we then want to do, so essentially that's what we're setting for this particular note. And if we come back up here, you can see that the first thing we're doing is we're setting that global variable. So you'll see we're saying when the template first triggers, it's going to say set the global variable in the TBX config note to outline depth. So so in other words, what I want to do here, I've got this global variable heading depth, and when this article fires, what I want you to be able to do is set that global variable. So let's go ahead and say I'm going to move that in, and we're going to look at preview, and then we go look back at global variable and see now it's been fired off at 2. And now if we go ahead and move it back in and refire the article, and then we go look at the global variable again, now it's 1. So essentially what's happening is we're telling the style sheet to set this global variable regardless of where this article is or this note is within the file. So that's what's happening there. We're saying set the global variable at this top level item. So in that case, in this it's 1. Then what we're saying is as you process the children, set the heading depth for the children to be the outline depth of the current child minus the global variable of the heading depth that we just set. So what that does then is that then allows us to have a relative reference of where a note is in the file, and to be able to get to that heading 1, 2, and 3. So in this case, for example, if the global variable is now 1 and this is now 2, when the note fires, it's going to process this child and it's going to say, okay, make 2 minus 1 becomes 1. So I want that one to be heading depth 1. This one's going to be make 3 minus 2, give me minus 1, give me heading depth 2, and so on. And then likewise, if I go here, this is going to be now heading depth 2. And so when this is now heading depth 3, it's going to be take heading depth 3 minus heading depth 2, give me 1. That gives me the number 1, and that's what I'm looking for. So now if we then go and look here, when we're actually processing the HTML, unlike what we did in this file where we're actually hard coding the depth for the style sheets, this case again we're doing it dynamically. So we're saying make the heading 1 style the number 1, the heading depth number for this particular note, and then we're going to close that tag out here. So what that's now doing is regardless of where the note is in the file, it's going to get its outline order that's going to then allow us to be able to create the styling. So you now see it's producing the heading 1, 2, 3, and 4 styles. And if we go ahead and tab that one in and redo it, you'll see it still retained the heading 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 styles. And if we were to change it back to the hard-coded heading depth, you'll see all of that goes away instantly. So this is a really, really nice way of being able to manage your notes and be able to create a very structured and styled outline exactly the way you want your notes to render when you're wanting to put them and publish. Now, the next thing I wanted to show you in this particular file, and we can do more in a future lesson when we get into more detail, is a mixed methods approach. So if you look here, I'm applying heading depth style outline 3. So let's go ahead and take a look at that one, and let me show you what I'm doing. So Very similar strategy and method that we were doing before. What we want you to do is to be able to process that note using the style sheets. But here, what I'm now doing is I'm putting some conditional notes in the style sheet. So I'm saying if your export template is for a particular note is indented list, then I want you to process the notes using the indented list template. And then if a notes export template is no border table, then I want you to process it using the no border table list. And then finally, if you're none of those things, then just go ahead and use the CSS Outline 3 style that we were just showing you. Now, let me show you what happens when we do that. So if I come up to this article here, and I'm just going to show it back as HTML, and I look at preview. So if I look at preview, you'll see the article is, that as we just showed you when we first started the article, it's all the same kind of top level headline, not a lot of definition, not a lot of distinction. If we move to the CSS style 3, you'll see that we have the styling that we want. But in this case, if we scroll down here, we're again, all of these items are just becoming those standard lists. Now we can move, and if we move to CSS style 3, we have the ability to have the article be anywhere we want within the Tinderbox file, and that's fine. But the problem is we're still getting not exactly the kind of formatting that we want for the article. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move back here. Oh, excuse me. When I go to CSS style 2, you'll see that we can move the article around, and we're not getting the formatting we necessarily want for the article. These things are still being underwritten, and this just doesn't look very good. Now watch what happens here. I'm going to go ahead and move that back. I'm going to apply this to CSS style 3. Now, the couple things before I get into showing you the list. Let me show you what I'm doing with the indented list. I'm removing the HTML header and footer because that's being added from the main CSS page. And I'm saying what I want you to do now is I want you to not put H1 styles around the title of the article of the items. And so, for example, if you go here, what I'm doing is I'm telling all of these notes here to use, or all of the children of these notes here to use the indented list here. And essentially what I'm saying is I want you to go and process for this indented list. First, grab the title, then grab the text if there's any, then open up an unordered bulleted list, and then process those children using this template, the item list here. And then for the unbolded bordered list, I want you to then start creating bullets. Grab the name of the title, and then grab the text. And then what I'm saying is if there are children within that bulleted list, I want you to open up another list, process those children that way. And so you're going to see a set of indented bullets there, which will be pretty darn cool in just a second. Similarly, if I go down here, you'll see I've got some interesting notes there. Now what I want to do here is I want to say if you are, and you'll see these are using the no border table one. So if we look at no border, what I'm saying here is if the note it has the no border HTML template, what I want you to be able to do is what I'm saying is go ahead and open up a table, put in hypotheses and descriptions as the header of that table, and then process those children, and then go ahead and stick in the value and the text for those notes. But now you're going to see it in a table. So again, let's take a look at what we see when we look at this file just as an HTML. You'll see that we can go through here, very high level. Everything is visually one level. All of these are just kind of in a long linear list. Now, if I go ahead and apply the CSS Styling 3 that has the mixed method model that we were just showing you earlier, this idea that will be dependent on what templates I'm getting here. I can go ahead here and show you this. And now you'll see as I go through, those lists actually become bullets. And you'll see here's an example of those indented bullets from the children. So you can do this. And then all of a sudden, these hypotheses here down there, these become a table. So now I have a very robust templated solution and approach here. And so now if I go ahead and open up my Microsoft Word, if I can find it, let me go ahead and just go like this. So let's go ahead and open up Microsoft Word. And I'm going to show you that I now can go ahead and take this content and paste it right into Microsoft Word. Okay, so let's create a new file. We'll go here. I can copy all of this, go into Word, hit paste, and now I have the fully formatted document completely written in Tinderbox and now pasted in Microsoft Word and ready to be published as a PDF or emailed out to anyone, and we're good to go. Now you can tweak the fonts and all that, and you can make it a little prettier in Word once you're done, add footers and such, but you get a sense now. So this hopefully gives you an idea that you actually can publish and manage long form content out of Tinderbox. Well, thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed that. And as always, if you would please like this video and share it, I would appreciate it. And please do subscribe to my channel. Really appreciate it.